This is a very completely different video from what I usually do. I want to just share the journey that I had growing up in Los Angeles. Specifically, I was born in right outside of Hollywood, but I was raised in Hollywood, which is a section of Los Angeles. When I come across an individual and they say they're from Los Angeles, usually one of the questions that I ask or they ask is, what part? For me, it was Hollywood. And I was born off of Beverly Boulevard in Los Angeles, right next to a few blocks from a world famous, it's called Tommy's Burgers, which is on Rampart and Beverly. Growing up as a kid, I was raised by my mom and my sister, so it was just us three. My parents were either separated or divorced by the time I was 6. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if they were ever married. My mom has passed away since. My sister has passed away. I guess if I really wanted to know the answer, if my parents were married, I would have to ask my father. I think I'm just going to leave it as it is and just have the memories that I have from my father, my mother, and my sister. Growing up in Los Angeles, my mom was a single parent, and my sister and I had the necessities that we needed, which was a bag of chips, a dinner, a roof over our head, an occasional movie at a movie theater. We had what I would call, looking back, peace. And my mom was my stability. So my sister, who was about 2.5 years older than me, 2 years, 8 months to be exact, also took care of me because she was a few years older. So my mom would be working. She worked at another famous restaurant. She worked at many restaurants. She was a waitress. El Coyote, which is very famous. It's on Beverly Boulevard, West Los Angeles. It's been there for a very long time, and if you look it up, you'll find pictures of it. The food it's Mexican food. It's nothing fancy. In fact, if I want Mexican food, I probably wouldn't go there because I want delicious Mexican food, but it's an atmosphere that you're there for. It's historic, and it's definitely something to visit if you ever get a chance to. What's interesting is in 1995, when I met my wife, one of our first dates, I took her to that restaurant, and we were there just in 2019, earlier, I think it was this year, that we were there, and it had been 24 years since I'd been there, and I went with my wife. So growing up in Hollywood, I got to see a lot of things that people either see on movies. The Hollywood sign, I would see it every day, and I wouldn't even think twice about it because it's something that you're raised with, so it's there. And in 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade, 7th grade, I went with my friend and we hiked up there. We took a bus, RTD, Rapid Transit District, RTD, which is the bus. And as students, you would just pay whatever it was. It was cheap. You had a bus pass. I think a bus pass was either $3 or $4 for the entire month, each month. So we went into LA, the Hollywood area, and somehow figured out where the sign was, and there are very big letters. We went there, and now it's very tough to get to because you're not allowed to be there. Even back then, you weren't allowed to do it, but we did it. We did it once. I wish I had pictures of that, but I don't. I have the memories. I grew up where I could see Griffith Park, which was right next to Hollywood, and you have the observatory. Growing up in Los Angeles or Hollywood, that was a far scene for me, the Hollywood scene, the movies, the actors. I would see actors all the time. When I say far, it wasn't my world. My world was I was a regular kid going to school, living in that area. That fame and fortune is foreign to me back then and still is today, but I got to see a lot of that, and because you're in that area, you see celebrities all the time. I wasn't excited about that. Not that I was annoyed by that, it's just it really didn't mean that much to me because you see celebrities all the time. Being on Sunset Boulevard or Hollywood Boulevard, I've seen many celebrities, even growing up, working out in Los Angeles before I joined the Air Force, which I'll get to in just a moment. You would see celebrities. My excitement came from baseball. Baseball was my first love, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if I could see Steve Garvey, Ron Cey, Davey Lopes, Steve Sachs, Fernando Valenzuela, any of those people in person, I would be having a blast. And I did get to see or meet some of these people. My favorite baseball player growing up was Steve Garvey, and I did get his autograph one time. Never had a conversation. I was just a little kid. I gave him my glove and he signed it. The first time I went to a Dodgers game was 1981, and that was excitement. That was the year that the Dodgers won the World Series. And I went to the same school for the most part, with the exception of 2 years where we moved in and out of Los Angeles, different areas, even outside of Los Angeles for 2 years. That was the one time that happened. Most of my friends I grew up with. I have one friend who I grew up with from elementary school, and he became a guitarist for a band called Orson, and since then that band broke up. But it was a good band that they formed, and they were very big in Europe. I saw movies. I was influenced by movies. Movies allowed me to think about life and my creative side, and sometimes escaping my world, even if it's for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and going into somebody else's world. And movies allowed me to dream, allowed me to see different parts of the world. So I've always had an appreciation for movies. When I was 15, I lived with my mom my entire life, from birth to 15. At 15, I ran away because I had problems. At the age of 15, I can already tell what I like, what I don't like, what's good, what's not good in the relationship at home. At home, in my case, was my mom. And by the time I was 15, my daughter was already moved out. She was 17 and a half, and married, and had a few children by the age of 17 and a half. So that's when I ran away, and I had nowhere to go. I had no money in my pocket, so I called my father to collect, and I moved in with him for about 2 years. That didn't go so well either. In 1988, the Dodgers won the World Series for the second time in my life, and I was very excited about that. I started saving money. I was working. I would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Friday after school for about 4 hours, Saturday, Sunday, 8 hours each day, and Monday nights about 4 hours. I would save my money. My mom taught me, save your money, because if you want to buy something, you want to be able to have the money, and you want to be able to get what you want. So eventually I saved about $3,500 by the age of 17, and bought my car, but that's a different story. So at the age of 17, 15, 16, 17, that's when I discovered alcohol, drinking, and I was influenced by music. Music was even bigger than film for me back in Los Angeles. 1980s hair bands, and to me, Motley Crue, Rat Poison, all these bands were incredible, Metallica. So I started going to concerts. I would go to, at the age of 15, West LA, West Hollywood, with my friend George, the guitarist, and by that time I had already started playing guitar, and then eventually I just let it go for baseball because I wasn't interested. But we would go into West LA, so we'd go to the Troubadour, which is on Santa Monica, the Roxy, the Whiskey A Go Go, and there was a place called Gazzari's, which has been torn down. We actually met Mr. Gazzari. I want to say his first name is Bill. He's passed away. He was an old guy. We got to talk to him, and that's history. There's a movie called The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. I think it's called The Rock Years. And I lived in LA during those times. If you want to see what that's like, look it up on YouTube, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. I came across rock stars, which to me was like, wow, these are some cool people. But of course, I didn't know what they were really like, other than you just hear the music and they seem cool and they're tattooed, which is why I have tattoos. And then at the age of 17, I went from rock, which I still enjoyed, to something that just sounded like this. And that's just the beat. It's house music. And it sounds a lot better than that, but I was in awe. So we started going to clubs from 17, 18, 19, 20, dance clubs, where it was house music. And I loved house music. I still do. I love beats. I love rock. I love metal. Beats is what I like. At the age of 18, what we would do is on long weekends, we would drive down to Tijuana, Mexico, or Ensenada, or Rosarito. So a lot of people from Nevada, Arizona, and California for long weekends would go out there. and it was nothing but drinking, meeting people, girls, and going to all these clubs and being by the water, whether it's the beach in Rosarito or in Ensenada, which is a little bit further south. And it was nothing but a good time. Because of the way I was brought up with my family, my friends became my family. And they were the individuals that were there for me when I needed them the most during those tough years of teenage years or even early 20s. I lived in Los Angeles until I left for the Air Force in 1996. And growing up in Los Angeles, I went to Hollywood High School, which I wasn't happy about because the school is right in the middle of the city or the area, the section of Hollywood, which is not a nice area. It's all concrete and buildings, and with the exception of the football field. So I was there for 3 months, and then I ran into a cousin of mine one day, and I said, hey, he said, hey, I go to Marshall High School in Los Angeles, which is a different section. And I said, do you think I can use your address and attend Marshall and tell Marshall, hey, here's where we're living? And he said, absolutely. So I went to Marshall High School. Marshall High School is a historic looking, kind of like a Gothic building, beautiful, built in 1931. An incredible school, and the buildings, and it looks like an old Gothic university. They film a lot of movies there. John Marshall High School in Los Angeles. It's very historic. I went there, and I went back to school with my friend George and my cousin Carlos, and finished and graduated in 1990. In 1990, I was 18, and that's when my adult life began, at the age of 19, when I left home for good and created my own life. And what I did from 18 through 23 is I had a lot of fun in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. I did some traveling because I already knew about traveling. A good friend of mine introduced me to my favorite author, a book called On the Road. That book changed my world in a good way because it gave me vision that there's a world out there and for me to explore it. It's called On the Road by Jack Kerouac, who was an author who died at the age of 47, and I'm 47 right now. That book, like I said, changed my world. And film, movies, not just cheesy films, but good films, allowed me to dream and escape my life for about an hour and a half and just see other things. It gave me the vision. And when I got kicked out of a university at the age of maybe 21 or 22, that's when I realized I have to do something with my life. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Most people come to Hollywood to make their dreams come true. I left Los Angeles, specifically Hollywood, to pursue my dreams. And that was travel, an opportunity. And I joined the Air Force, which was the best decision I ever made. Growing up in Hollywood, just wanted to share with you what I got to see as an individual. And it was a good life. It was a good life. I was a good kid overall, respectful, mischievous at times. Not in a bad way, but it's just something that I said, you know, this is who I am. I needed to find myself. I found myself, and hopefully, if you're an individual, regardless of what age you are or where you are in life, if you haven't found yourself, know, first of all, that where you are, that you haven't found yourself, but find yourself. For me, it took me a while, but I found myself. I love to visit Hollywood. I love to visit Los Angeles, always on a round trip. And I'm coming up on 24 years since I left Los Angeles. And that's still my city that I love. Dodgers were eliminated last night in the first round of the playoffs. Oh well, they've lost back-to-back World Series, so I'd rather them lose in the first round or second round than having high hopes again and losing in the World Series. The last time they won the World Series was 1988. I was 16 years old. I was at work at a video store, and I actually was watching the game when Kirk Gibson hit that home run over right field. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care.